Welcome back to the Nerds Club, where brains, curiosity, and chaos collide. And today, oh boy, do I have something awesome for you. Picture this, a framework backed by science, simple to use, and designed to make your life a whole lot better. Sounds like magic, right? Nope, it's the ACT Matrix, and it's about to be your new nerdy superpower. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, great, another self-help thing, let me stop you right there. This isn't some manifest your destiny nonsense or a TED Talk from a guy who's never had a bad day in his life. This is science. Actual, brainy, psychologist-approved science. And it's surprisingly not boring. The ACT Matrix is this super simple, deceptively genius tool that comes from acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, because psychologists love acronyms. It's like a mental cheat sheet to help you figure out what really matters in life, and how to stop sabotaging yourself every time things get a little uncomfortable. Now, here is why this isn't just fluff. The ACT Matrix has roots in decades of research. Like, seriously, there are over 200 studies backing ACT. It's used by everyone from therapists to Olympic athletes to Fortune 500 companies to improve decision-making, handle stress, and build better relationships. This is real science, nerds, not just self-help mumbo-jumbo. And guess what? You don't need a PhD or a couch session to use it. The ACT Matrix is designed to be simple, practical, and ready for everyday life. Whether you are a gamer, a coder, a reader, or just someone trying to make sense of the chaos we call life, this tool has got you covered. Now, we're going to nerd out on how this works. We'll break down the Matrix step by step, apply it to real-life nerd problems, and by the end, you'll have your very own ACT Matrix custom-made to level up your decision-making and perspective-taking skills. Here is the roadmap for today's ride. First, we'll start by breaking down the 4 quadrants of the ACT Matrix. Then, I'll help you build your own ACT Matrix. Yes, your very own. It's like a custom character sheet for your brain. And finally, we'll dive into perspective taking. You know, the magical skill of seeing things from other people's points of view. Don't worry, it's easier than trying to explain quantum mechanics to your grandma. So grab a notebook, a pen, and maybe a health potion or two, because we're about to embark on a mental quest like no other. Ready to level up? Let's do this! All right, nerds, before we dive into the ACT Matrix itself, let me tell you the story of how this brilliant tool came to life. The ACT Matrix was created by Dr. Kevin Polk, a clinical psychologist who wanted to make complicated psychological ideas simple and practical for everyone. Back in the early 2000s, Dr. Polk was working with veterans who were struggling with PTSD. He needed a way to help them that wasn't full of confusing jargon, a tool that was easy to understand and use in real life. So, inspired by acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT for short, Dr. Polk started brainstorming. ACT was already an incredible approach, created by Stephen C. Hayes and his team in the 1980s, but it could be a little, let's say, academic. Polk wanted something visual and hands-on, something that anyone could pick up and start using right away. Working alongside his colleagues Mark Webster and Gerald Hambright, he developed the ACT Matrix. The big idea? Create a super simple tool that shows how your thoughts, feelings, actions, and values all connect, and help you figure out how to move toward the things that matter most. At first, the Matrix was just a way to help veterans in therapy sessions, but it turned out to be so effective that it started spreading far beyond that. Now people use it everywhere, from schools to businesses to everyday life. So, yeah. The ACT Matrix wasn't just plucked out of thin air. It's backed by decades of research, real-world testing, and the kind of creativity only a true nerd for psychology could come up with. And the best part? You don't need a degree or a therapist to use it. Dr. Polk designed it to be simple, practical, and ready for everyday challenges. Now that you know the origin story, let's dive in and see how this amazing tool works. All right, nerds, it's time to enter the Matrix. The Matrix has 2 axes. The horizontal axis is all about actions. On the right side, we have actions that move you toward what matters to you, things that align with your goals, values, and nerdy passions. On the left side, we have actions that move you away from discomfort. These are the things we do to avoid unpleasant thoughts, feelings, or situations. Then T here is the vertical axis. This one is all about experience. At the top, we have the outer world, things you do, things you say, or how you act. At the bottom, we have the inner world, thoughts, feelings, and emotions. The stuff people don't see. Now, when we put it all together, we get 4 quadrants. And here is where the magic happens. Each quadrant represents a part of your experience, what matters to you, what gets in your way, and how you respond. Let's start with the top left quadrant. This is all about what matters most to you, your values, your goals, your ultimate quest rewards in life. Think of this as your why. It's the reason you get out of bed in the morning or grind for 100 hours in your favorite RPG. So ask yourself, what really matters to you? What gives your life meaning? We'll come back to this in a bit, but hold on to that thought. Next up is the top right quadrant, the actions you take to live out your values. These are the things you do that move you closer to your goals. Think of this as your heroic deeds, helping your friends, working on that cosplay, or practicing your craft. Here is the thing. These actions often require effort, courage, and sometimes doing things that feel a little uncomfortable. We'll dive into that later. Now, here is where things get tricky, the bottom left quadrant. This quadrant is all about what gets in the way. These are the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that show up and make you want to hit the save and quit button in life. For example, have you ever psyched yourself out of trying something new because you were worried about what people might think? That's this quadrant talking. Don't worry, we all go there. Finally, we've got the bottom right quadrant, the stuff you do to avoid those uncomfortable feelings. This is where things like procrastination, overthinking, or rage quitting live. It's the stuff we do to escape discomfort, but it usually doesn't help us in the long run. Don't lie, I know you've been here before. We all have. But the key is noticing when this quadrant starts calling the shots. So, here is the big takeaway. The ACT matrix isn't about being perfect or ignoring the hard stuff. It's about noticing what's happening in all four quadrants and choosing actions that align with what matters to you. It's a mental flowchart for making life decisions, nerd style. Now that we've covered the basics of the ACT matrix, it's time to make it personal. Let's build your own matrix step by step. We'll start with the top left quadrant. What matters most to you? Take a moment to think about your values. What's most important in your life? It could be family, health, learning, helping others, or achieving your goals. These are the things that give your life meaning. Write down a few things that come to mind. Don't overthink it, just focus on what truly matters to you. Next is the top right quadrant, actions you take to live those values. These are the things you do that show your values in action. For example, if you value family, it might mean spending quality time with loved ones. If you value health, it might mean eating well or exercising. Think about the actions that move you closer to living in line with what matters most. Write down a few examples. Now let's move to the bottom left quadrant, what gets in the way? Here, we're looking at the thoughts, feelings, or emotions that make it hard to move toward your values. It might be fear, self-doubt, anxiety, or frustration. Think about what usually holds you back or makes things feel harder. Write those down. Here is no judgment here, just awareness. Finally, let's look at the bottom right quadrant, actions you take to avoid discomfort. These are the things you do to escape or avoid those tough feelings. It could be procrastinating, endlessly scrolling on your phone, or distracting yourself with things that aren't really helpful. Take a moment to reflect and write down some examples. Now look at your matrix. You've just mapped out what's important to you, what helps you move toward it, what gets in the way, and how you respond. This is your personal guide to understanding your patterns and making choices that matter. Remember, the ACT matrix isn't about being perfect. It's about noticing where you are, accepting the challenges, and making choices that move you closer to what's truly important. Now that we've covered the basics of the ACT matrix, let's bring it to life with an example. This will help you see how relatable and transformative this tool can be. All right, let's take this ACT matrix and apply it to something a little different, like making money or learning a new skill. These are things a lot of us want to work on, but they often come with challenges, right? Let's break it down. Imagine you've decided you want to learn a new skill to boost your income. Maybe it's coding, graphic design, photography, or even public speaking, something that will help you grow and earn more in the future. We start with the top left quadrant. What matters most? Take a moment to think, why does this matter to you? What's the deeper reason you want to learn this skill? It could be things like having financial freedom, feeling accomplished or proud of yourself, supporting your family or loved ones, or pursuing your dream career. Write down what comes to mind. This is your why, the thing that drives you. Next, the top right quadrant. Actions you take to live those values. What are the things you could do to learn this skill or move closer to your goal of making more money? Examples might include signing up for a course or workshop, practicing every day, even for just 15 minutes, or reaching out to a mentor or expert in the field, or applying your skill to small projects to build experience. These are your forward-moving actions, the things that will actually help you learn and grow. Now let's move to the bottom left quadrant. What gets in the way? Here is where the tricky stuff shows up. The thoughts, feelings, or emotions that make it hard to take those actions. Maybe you think, I am not good enough to do this. I'll never be as skilled as other people. What if I fail and waste my time or money? And maybe you feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid of looking foolish. Write these down. The goal here isn't to judge yourself, it's just to notice the barriers that tend to show up. Finally, the bottom right quadrant. Actions you take to avoid discomfort. When those tough feelings and thoughts show up, what do you tend to do instead of working on your goal? Some examples could be procrastinating by watching YouTube videos or scrolling social media, making excuses like, I'll start next week when I am less busy. Overthinking or endlessly researching without actually taking action. Write these down too. They're the things that temporarily make you feel better but pull you away from your goal. Now step back and look at your matrix. Do you see the pattern? When you are stuck in the bottom left quadrant with negative thoughts or feelings, or the bottom right quadrant avoiding discomfort, it's hard to move toward your goals. But when you shift to the top right quadrant, even if it's just taking small actions, you are stepping closer to what matters to you. For example, instead of procrastinating, you might choose to spend 15 minutes practicing your skill today. Or you might reach out to someone who can guide you. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to move you forward. The ACT matrix helps you notice these patterns and gives you the chance to choose. It's about saying, yes, I feel scared or overwhelmed, but I am still going to take action because this matters to me. That's how this tool becomes life-changing. It's not about avoiding discomfort, it's about moving toward what truly matters, even when things feel tough. In the next section, we'll explore one of the most important skills in this process: perspective taking. This will help you see challenges from a fresh angle and open up even more possibilities. You've got this. Let's keep going. Now that you've built your own ACT matrix and seen how it works in action, it's time to talk about one of the most powerful tools this process offers: perspective taking. So what is perspective taking? It's the ability to step back, look at your situation from a different angle, and see things more clearly. It's like zooming out on a map to get the full picture instead of being stuck in one tiny corner. Let's break it down. When we're dealing with challenges, whether it's learning a new skill, making money, or navigating relationships, it's easy to get caught up in our thoughts and feelings. We might think, this is too hard, or I can't do this, and those thoughts feel like absolute truth. But perspective taking gives us a way to notice those thoughts and step back from them. It's not about ignoring or fighting them, it's about seeing them for what they are: just thoughts. For example, imagine you are feeling stuck trying to learn a new skill. You might have a thought like, I am never going to be good at this. Instead of getting tangled in that thought, perspective taking allows you to pause and say, here is that thought again. It's just my mind doing its thing. It doesn't mean it's true. Here's an exercise to help you practice this skill. Think about a challenge you are facing right now, something where you feel stuck or unsure. Now, imagine you are an outside observer, like a friend or a mentor, looking at your situation. What advice would they give you? How might they describe your strengths or your progress so far? Or, if you want to take it up a notch, imagine you are looking at your life from a distant future. Picture your 80-year-old self reflecting back on this moment. What would they say about the importance of this challenge in the bigger picture of your life? These exercises help you step out of the narrow view of the moment and see things with more clarity and compassion. Perspective taking also works in relationships. Let's say you are having a tough conversation with someone and you are feeling frustrated or defensive. What if you paused and asked yourself, what's it like for them right now? How are they seeing this situation? By shifting perspectives, you open up new possibilities for connection and understanding. And here is the best part. The ACT matrix makes perspective taking super simple. Anytime you feel stuck, you can use the matrix to ask yourself, what's happening in my inner world? My thoughts and feelings. What actions am I taking right now? Am I moving toward what matters? Or am I getting pulled away by discomfort? These questions create space for you to step back, notice, and choose your next move with intention. Often, we're much harder on ourselves than we'd ever be on someone else. This exercise helps you see the situation with more kindness and clarity. Perspective taking isn't about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about being flexible. It helps you respond to challenges with more clarity and creativity so you can stay on track with what truly matters. This process can be applied to almost anything: deciding whether to take a risk, dealing with self-doubt when learning something new, navigating tough decisions in relationships or work. Now, here is my challenge for you. Over the next week, I want you to use the ACT matrix for one specific challenge in your life. It doesn't have to be anything huge, just something you've been stuck on or avoiding. Here is how to do it. Grab a piece of paper and draw the matrix. Fill in each quadrant based on your situation. Use perspective taking to step back and clarify your next step. If you are up for it, share your matrix or your experience in the comments. I'd love to see how you are using this tool and how it's working for you. Remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about noticing what's happening, staying connected to what matters most, and taking small steps forward even when things feel tough. You've got this, nerds. Keep leveling up, keep taking perspective, and keep showing up for what matters to you. Thanks for joining me on this ride. I'll see you next time.
KO.